There's an industry right now that is using freeze dryers to completely transform the way they process their product. And I'm going to tell you about that through an interview that I had with the CEO of Holland Green Science. In this interview, you're going to better understand the cannabis industry as well as how freeze dryers are being used to completely revolutionize processing their products, and it's really taking off in this particular industry. Now, the CEO is Michael, and he's a fantastic guy who has a lot of information and knowledge about this industry. This is a really fascinating topic for me because I really don't know much about the cannabis side. I don't use cannabis myself, but I also don't freeze dry cannabis. But I know that the industry is booming there, and I wanted to talk to someone who has knowledge of that and actually makes freeze dryers. And the application of their freeze dryers actually has a lot to do with what we're all doing in the candy side, fruit, and other types of products. This video is going to only contain the audio portion of the interview. Speaking of audio, if you just want to enjoy the content that I'm producing via listening with your ears through podcast, I've uploaded every interview that I've done for freeze drying entrepreneurs as well as manufacturers under this Frozen Assets interview series, and that is through the Frozen Assets podcast. You can get this right now on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. Any rating or review that you submit will really help in the algorithm on these podcast platforms so that the interviews and the episodes go up more and more for people who are searching for freeze drying or entrepreneurship, things like that. So I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Now let's get to the interview with Michael, the CEO of Holland Green Science. I hope you enjoy.
All right. So again, my background, David, is in traditional scientific equipment, instruments, freeze dryers being a big part of that. So, you know, I had been in this space where I saw the scientific and pharmaceutical applications for freeze drying in machines that were extremely sophisticated and also at the same time very expensive, and out of the price point of what I would call other applications outside of, again, research, scientific stuff, and then pharmaceutical production, obviously.
Right.
And then, again, my other lifelong passion has been cannabis in what we call hash making. And for many years, what people did was that they made their own what we call bubble hash by using just frozen water and silkscreen bags to get what we call bubble hash, which is really just the separated trichomes from the biomass of cannabis. The problem then is to dry this material, which again, we call hashish. And so what we used to do back in the olden days was just let it air dry, and you cross your fingers, you pray to your gods that it comes out okay and doesn't go moldy, or, you know, and often that wasn't the case, depending especially on your climate and location. Then all of a sudden, we started to see the first commercial food grade freeze dryers at a price point that a consumer, but also a hash maker could afford. And this was our primary competition today. And this company came onto the scene like gangbusters with a product that I tip my hat to, was revolutionary, again, to bring the freeze drying technology that had been outside into this scientific pharmaceutical space into the hands of regular people and letting their imaginations go with whatever they could do with it, whether it was making hash or doing food prep or you name it. And we're learning every day the new applications that people think of. So at about that time, a lot of these hash makers moved into using our competitors' machines. And that's when we started to notice some issues, which were primarily they use what we call an auto-tune functionality, that's what they have trademarked. And it uses an algorithm that works with some stuff, but not everything. And it's especially doesn't work with cannabis because the algorithm is much too aggressive and really kind of destroys your product. Okay. This was one problem. The other problem we started to see in labs in the cannabis space as things emerged legal, bigger production facilities and that. In a lot of these hash making facilities, you have anywhere between 6 to 12 freeze dryers operating simultaneously, pumping product out. So what we started to see were some safety issues, fires being started, little electrocutions in that. So there were some issues safety-wise. The product wasn't coming out the way we wanted it. And then again, to have a machine now that wasn't for someone who was making maybe some food products a couple times a year or bringing it out once a month, kind of like a bread maker, but this was their bread maker in revenue. It was now a machine that was directly tied to making profits for people. And now you need machines that can operate, 24 hours in some case a day, in some cases 7 days a week, and be able to stand up to that kind of commercialized application. And our competitors' machines didn't stand up to it. So that's when I started to really look at what I could do to solve these problems for the cannabis market. At that same time, I was still trying to get something that was really a home unit freeze dryer that was a food grade machine. I launched my first freeze dryer in the US market, which we call our Xiros 2, which is it's really kind of a little bit of a trimmed up pharmaceutical. It is a pharma grade machine, pilot scale, very big, does a lot of biomass. And the customers using this were primarily people who wanted to freeze dry cannabis flower as opposed to making hash. So it was much more sensitive to different moisture contents, the variations between varieties. There's a lot of varieties in cannabis, just like you have in potatoes or corn or whatever. Each one has different moisture content, different attributes and nuances that make you have to dial in your settings, your recipe. So it needs to be fully programmable. You need sterility, a sterile environment. So everything's stainless steel. Again, a pharma grade machine. And so what we did was started to introduce this into the cannabis market, but this other piece still wasn't there. The smaller one for the concentrates, the hash. And then finally, in the midst of COVID and everything else that hit us, we were able to launch what we call our Xiros Mikro a couple of years ago. It's been a little about 2 years now since we launched it.
Okay.
And we focused on the cannabis application, and that's what we started to sell into. And we had a machine that solved all these problems. First of all, our machine is UL rated, okay, in the US, but CE in Europe. There's no risk for fires, for electrical issues in that. That was paramount for us, safety. We also have what's called a vacuum control valve, which our competitors don't have. That allows you to have much more control over your vacuum, okay? And that's where we, in the hash making business, worry about what we call terpene preservation. Terpenes are not a cannabinoid, but are very important as we're learning more and more every day on the overall effects of a particular type of cannabis, and you want to preserve them. This is where you get the smell, the essence. Terpenes are in other things like lemons. You have that same terpene in lemons that you have in some cannabis strains, and you want to preserve that flavor, aroma, taste, and also the chemical activity that goes on is the way it works with the other cannabinoids. So what we can do with our machines is a very high level of terpene preservation, okay? And the other thing is our machines are very flexible, adjustable. You have a lot more versatility. So our standard food grade benchtop unit, which is the Xiros Mikro, comes in a 9-tray configuration, which is ideal for making bubble hash. And then even other applications like making candies, freeze-dried candies, or some other types of foods. But it's a very minimal tolerance between shelves. So things that are larger, you can't fit in. So with our machine, you can pull out that 9-shelf assembly. It literally takes 30 seconds. There's a plug-in back that comes out. And then you can slide in one of our accessory sets, which is 3, 7, or 5 shelves. Now you've got a lot more opportunities. You can do all different kinds of sized foods, fruits, vegetables, but also you could do flowers from cannabis in that. So customers really like that, a lot more versatility. Those shelf assemblies, they're easy to pull out, but you're going to notice one thing when you pull them out from our competitors, they're heavy. Why are they heavy? Stainless steel. Stainless steel is a decision we made that added weight and cost to our machines. However, it's crucial when you're doing cannabis production because terpenes are actually corrosive with aluminum. So you want to avoid that, especially over time, that becomes an issue. But also when you're talking about things like, again, cleanliness, ability to clean good, and that stainless steel is better than aluminum, which starts to get into some of the pharmaceutical scientific applications. So, we did a lot of things. We enhanced our components, our vacuum sensors, all of our wire assemblies, solid state relays. Again, we did a lot. We have 20% more ice capacity, for example, than our competitors' equivalent model. We did a lot of things really to enhance the performance and overall quality of our machine. That what ended up happening was we started to bleed into those specifications for scientific freeze dryers. And as a result, we now have customers that are in biotech, higher education, research. Some of our customers are the Smithsonian, Rutgers University, University of New Mexico, several biotech companies around the country. That was something we never anticipated. And sometimes we try to convince these people, hey, we want to remind you, this is a food grade machine. We're not a pharma grade machine. I'll give them a list of people, here, this is who I'd buy from. And they're like, no, we're confident your machine's going to meet our expectations for our application. And they've had a lot of success with it. The other thing we've found now, too, is the food people are starting to come our way, because what we're finding in particular with the candy market, which is really booming now, you can go online, freeze-dried candy, there are so many options. Our 9-tray configuration works great for a lot of the most popular candies, but now with the accessories, they can do things that really, gummies, things like that, that really expand when they pop in the freeze dryer. And with our machine and the efficiencies and that vacuum control valve and all these other things we built in, we're seeing people can do cycle times in an hour or less. Okay, so they are just kicking out this candy a lot more quickly. They're getting much better efficiencies with our machine, which is why they are like our Xiros Mikro as well. But then again, when we look at food, sky's the limit. You're only limited by your own imagination. We just did an expo in Barcelona last week. It's called Cannabis. It's obviously a cannabis-centric show, one of the biggest in the world, the biggest in Europe. And one of the things we were giving away as kind of a little, promotional item was packets of freeze-dried gazpacho that you could go ahead, add water to, and you had the famous cold Spanish soup. So again, our technician in Europe is our lead technician in Europe, Tuan. He's a foodie in addition to being a freeze-drying fanatic. So he's always working on different applications. Some of our customers in Europe are Michelin star restaurants and using, again, what they call micro gastronomy, where, again, it's just this wild presentation of much more traditional things that we, are accustomed to, but using things like, again, liquid nitrogen, freeze drying, you name it, using pipette to dispense sauces, and that it's an elevated type of thing. So freeze-dried breast milk is another application we're seeing, again, to preserve mother's milk in a much better, more, for longevity than you could under traditionally just putting it in a refrigerator or that. So again, we are constantly amazed at the new applications that people are using our machines with. And the reason for that is, again, the versatility, the quality, the enhancements of our machine. And then I think what's really important is customer service. And, our entire team is really dedicated to the success of our customers. Because again, we've got people who might be making type of food for their family, preserving their garden's harvest or that's important, just as important as it is for these people who are making product for a business. And we don't want people ruining their batches. We don't want people having downtime. We don't want people not getting the full potential out of their machines. So one thing we do that our competitors don't is every machine we sell, that customer gets a one-on-one call, either virtual or a phone call with one of our technicians who help them get that machine going, set up, any questions, help them put in the program settings for hash, which we provide our customers, play around with some food settings. We want people to be comfortable with their machines and feel confident that they can now start their adventure with that machine, which is to learn about all the stuff they can do. Again, our machines are fully programmable. Only your imagination's your limit. There's 4 placeholders for your different recipes or settings, so you can store recipes in there. Our machines, you also have USB connectivity too, so you can get data in and out. We can give you upgrades as we continue to improve our machine. So again, we think we have something really special for the market. We're very passionate about our business, our customers, and that's a little bit of who we are. So again, I started this company with my partners in Europe, in the Netherlands. That's where our international holding group is based. And also then started Holland Green Science USA here right as COVID hit. It was late 2019 in November. And again, we had a global team. We have, again, some of our engineers are also in Australia and in Asia and in Europe and in the States here. And it was an enormous challenge to get everything together and to launch these new products of ours. We started, in addition to freeze dryers, we sell a lot of what people would call traditional laboratory tools like vacuum pumps, vacuum ovens. You kind of see our niche here a little bit, and what we would call kind of lab tools. And we also created some other products specific to the cannabis market to solve problems, you know, and that's what we're all about, looking at those bottlenecks, looking at where the pain points are, and that really leads our product development.
Freeze drying's been around, these industrial freeze dryers, these freeze dryers like even that Holland Green Science has, they've been around, but with the new applications for food and for fruits and starting unique businesses with the different recipes and with candy, is everyone now trying to position themselves differently?
Yeah, you know, I think that everyone's breaking out into niches a little bit more. But I think a few things kind of made this whole situation what it is. Again, there was this traditional pharma scientific research application, also the commercialized like pet food market and MREs, things like that,
Right.
that was out there. But what happened was, like I said, there was finally machines that were at a price point that smaller businesses and people could afford. And then the other thing was this kind of do-it-yourself kind of culture that emerged, where people again wanted to do more on their own. There was again this. I think people became a lot more aware of their food chains and where stuff came from. Want to take more control of that to try to preserve and make as much of their own food as possible, which, you know, that's an important market to us as well. And then, like I said, the cannabis market coming in with this new need too. So there were a lot of things that just kind of came together to create the perfect storm for freeze drying, and we're in it now. So right now, our main focus is to continue to ramp up our production to meet the customer demand, because it is high. And again, make sure we have quality units, and again, when there are issues, that they're solved, you know, and that the customer is taken care of. You're always going to have situations where machines could be damaged in freight or just whatever situation you may have, and it happens. The difference between us and some of our competitors is we pick up the phone, we answer that email, and immediately get the situation resolved. If it takes shipping a new machine to the customer, we do it immediately, even before the other ones return. So again, that's what we're all about, is making sure that our machines are available to our customers, because that's a challenge now as we continue to ramp up production, and to make sure that they're getting a high quality machine and that their expectations are being met.
If I'm a current business owner of a freeze dryer and I have multiple different machines, or I'm just starting out, how do I know whether I'm supposed to look at machines like Holland Green Science, that's what I'm looking for, instead of purchasing something that's more of that that home freeze dryer?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, like I mentioned early on, every business, any smart business owner who wants to sleep good at night, puts safety first. Okay. So the first thing I would say is make sure you got machines that are safe and not going to be a problem for you and your workers, and compromise your property, but most importantly, the safety of yourself and your employees. So again, ours are UL rated. This is very important for that. Then once you start to look at regulatory issues, let alone from cannabis and all the scrutiny involved there, but if you're going to expand a mom and pop business and really grow, you got to look down the road a bit. And if you're starting to build out your facility and you got to deal with fire marshals inspections and the codes and regulations of your particular municipality, a lot of times, which will require UL rated equipment, think ahead. That's all what I always put first. And I think most business owners should. The other thing is some of the other things I mentioned. Is this machine going to stand up to the use, the wear and tear that a business application, a commercialized application is going to entail? So again, a machine that you're going to run 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, are you going to be dealing with, and then again, when you're running machines that hard, whether it's a little replacement part or some service part, it's always going to be needed. Are you going to have a company that you can call and in a timely manner get that part so you can repair your machine to get back and going? Are your machines going to have warranties on them? Ours are 2-year warranties on our Xiros Mikro that, again, you can stand behind for your business. So these are just some of the real easy ones that I would say that aren't even technical, really. And then you start to get into, what are you making? Do you want to be known as the best in what you're doing? That's our philosophy. So whether you're making freeze-dried candy or you're making, again, prepared meals or anything else that you're doing, do you really want the taste to be there, the quality to be there, the consistency of every batch you're running? These are things that are important because that's what's going to set you out from your competitors and enable you to be successful in the market. So these are the things I would look for, and these are the things that our machine provides.
How much is a Zero Micros, and like how much capacity can it do?
Again, with our machine, it is depending a lot on what you're going to be running in that machine. So are you doing candies? What kind of candy? Are you doing liquids? Then that's going to really dictate your capacity in the machine. But again, it's a laptop. It's a desktop or benchtop unit. But again, it's about 300 pounds. This is a piece of equipment. It is something that really. You can tell just by the quality and the workmanship, it isn't something that's going to fall apart in 6 months or something. Again, I talked about the stainless steel shelving units and that. It's a high quality machine. And with that, it's a major investment for some people, I understand. But you've got something that's going to endure. You've got something that, again, like I said, with the USB connectivity, as we update our software, make enhancements down the road, you can do that again to upgrade your machine real time. So there's an investment in anything, and like the old saying goes, you get what you pay for. In some cases,
right.
we never went out to get the cheapest unit in the market. We wanted to have the best value for our customers. And with that being said, we'll go up against our competitors any day on a value level on what you pay for and get with our machine versus our competitors. The actual price of our unit is $5,999 retail. And then $6,000.
Okay, and then the pump coming with that.
Yeah, and then we have different pump options as well, the vacuum pump.
Coming from someone who owns, one of your competitors and multiple machines, it's like, I'm used to doing anywhere between 12 to 16 pounds of Skittles or 12 to 16 pounds of fruit for that type of thing. And I'm not saying that the price isn't worth it, because I want, one of the things that we find in these machines is, sometimes there's just inconsistencies, and there is a throwaway rate because it's not, sometimes it can be unreliable, but not all the time. So like how much capacity for, let's say, how much fruit, even if you have like a 4 or the 5 shelf unit.
Yeah. So what I would say, let's go to the Skittles, which is very hot right now. Our 9 shelf unit is going to accommodate Skittles perfectly. Our director of operations, who's also the Willy Wonka of Holland Green Science, she makes all the freeze-dried candy for our trade shows and everything that we give out. And she makes Skittles all the time. And she'll tell you firsthand as well as you're going to be able not only to load considerably more Skittles in one batch with our machine because of the shelf tray. Now you've got tight shelves, which are perfect for Skittles. And not only are you going to run more per batch, you're going to get more batch cycles quicker.
Right.
Again, an hour at most for a batch of Skittles. And so that's the one thing to consider. Same thing for like a banana slice. That 9-shelf configuration is perfect for banana slice. So you're going to be able to get more in because of again, that versatility with the trays. And then let's say you want to do something in a 5 tray. You know, the other thing is that we're seeing with cannabis flower. A lot of people use our 5 tray one, and people are putting 1 pound of cannabis flower in that at a batch at a time. So again, they're getting quite a bit of biomass in a run. And again, those runs are considerably longer. There's a longer, more complicated program of settings for cannabis flower. That process takes 24 hours to complete. Traditionally, when you hang and cure flower, it takes weeks or months to do. So now you've done it in 24 hours versus what could have took you a month or two. But the main thing with our machine, it's fully programmable. So, you know, again, what we do is we provide a white paper with all of our customers too, which is what we call the freeze dry, the principles of freeze drying. And it works through, it's kind of, again, a 101 course on freeze drying, talks about, again, time, temperature, and pressure, the 3 main factors for freeze drying, and what each of those controls do, what really is entailed in the sublimation process and everything. Just give you a little introduction, some sample recipes, settings per se. And then what you're going to find is with the control of our machines that you don't have in our competitors, you're going to know even within different varieties, and this goes back to like cannabis, the different varieties of apples, let's say, or even, you know, not so much with bananas, but other vegetables or fruits. There's different varieties. Even different crops are going to have different moisture content, different attributes to those different, again, apples, oranges, whatever you're using. So when you can program things, you can really dial in your secret sauce, not just to apple, but the apples I'm using. Okay. Not just, again, whatever fruit or vegetable or cannabis, but again, the specific one that you're using. So you are able to just have much more control with our machine, which gives you an experience like, again, one of these scientific freeze dryers that you just don't have in these standard home units. And what that means at the end of the day is better efficiencies, higher quality end product, you know, at the end of the day.
Are there ways to get in, like, how do you research, how do you approach Holland Green Science to kind of take a look at this? Is it, do you get
Yeah.
other consults that people can get from your team?
Yeah, so absolutely, anybody can reach out to us by email, by phone, through our website. We're happy to address any specific questions or just give you some general information about our product. There's a lot of ways you can go about getting our machines. We work with some distributors in some different spaces, and you can also buy direct from us as well. And again, we're often at different trade shows. Primarily has been in the cannabis market, but this year we're looking at a couple potential more food-orientated shows we might be exhibiting in as well.
Yeah.
That's a great opportunity to check out one of our machines. Sometimes we can even arrange for demonstrations at our customers or that. So, but I think you can also just go through social media. You'll see a lot of testimonials from our end customers and the results that they're getting. So,
Yeah.
but the information's there. We love talking about our equipment, and you know, again, there's a lot of literature we share too. It's about how deep you want to go down the hole, because again, our technicians, our engineers, they can get really wonky with this stuff and really dive in, do the deep dive into the details. So what we want to do is strike that nice balance, because some people don't want to know all that. They just want to be able to run their product. I had a call earlier today with a candy guy, and he's like, Mike, I want a couple more recipes. I need some more, so again, we're working with them in that, but he doesn't want to know the details. He just wants to be able to make his product, and that's great, no problem. And then we got the people who really want to know all the specifics. These, again, are more the scientific application people, and we're happy to get into that discussion as well.
Now, you talk to a lot of different freeze drying companies and different applications. Like, what is the most interesting company you've encountered? Let's just say, in the past year.
We've had a number of interesting customers on the scientific end, that research end. One university is doing soil samples from Antarctica. I thought that was kind of neat. The other one is doing feces from animals. So you got both extremes here.
What's the applications for those?
They way above my pay grade. This again, what they're doing, it's something about what it was. It was a type that, again, they were freeze drying the feces to then extract. I think it was like, I want to say it was like hormones or something like that. And I'd have to talk to my technical sales guy who did that sale, but it was something wild. It was just, when I heard they were doing that, I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
When we talk about our pumps, one of the options for the vacuum pumps that we have is our Anemos, what we call our Anemos dry scroll pump. It's a great pump. It's a oilless vacuum pump, so you don't need to change oil to that. It's so silent. Most of our customers can't believe it's on. They have to put a hand on it to believe us that it's on. But we sell, in the cannabis, different scientific applications, obviously with our freeze dryer and that. But we started getting a lot of customer sales into the quantum computer market. And I didn't even know really what a quantum computer was. Again, I mean, I'm not a technical guy. I just thought it was kind of like your traditional supercomputer, some room full of servers or something. And our customer was kind enough to let me check out their production facility so I could understand how they were using our vacuum pumps. And these things look like chandeliers. I mean, unbelievable. Just a whole different take on that tech. I started to, with the help of my nephew, who's a software engineer, and that I started to learn a little bit more about all of this. But yeah, they need very steady control of temperature when they go ahead and manufacture these. And that's what they use the vacuum pumps to create that environment. And it was just, mind-blowing how this is all going to work with AI in the future and that. So again, it's literally all over the place, but whatever it is, we love it when we see customers who are really happy. So, the big cannabis show is what we call MJ Biz. It's at the end of the year, usually in Vegas. It's kind of the big party for our market every year. Huge show, anywhere between at least 20 to 50,000 attendees, big conferences and that. But we had a lot of customers who came to us to show us their end product, and show us what they were making with our competitors and now what they were making. And they wanted to give us some, they wanted us to say, they were just, and what really got us was just the pride that they had in their product and what they were able to do, and then the gratitude towards us to help them get to that level of quality that they really were striving towards. And for us, that makes it,
Awesome. Well, thanks, Michael, for chatting with us and filling us in on Holland Green Science. Awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really nice, David.
Hey, it's David with the Frozen Assets podcast, as well as the Freeze Dry Business channel. If you are new to listening to these types of interviews with Michael and people related to the freeze drying space, I'd encourage you to subscribe right now and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications on your device when a new episode or video comes out related to this channel and podcast series. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.